Peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of Maintain Your Islamic Identity and Still Be a Boss Muslimapreneur. I'm your host, Halimah DeOliveira of BU and HD. Women often appear to suffer from the misconception that to be successful in business or accepted in society, they have to diminish or denounce their faith or beliefs. As a business coach, I have encountered women cross-culturally who face internal conflict regarding their religious identity, maintaining their family roles, and being their most authentic selves. I developed this podcast to help guide them back to reclaiming their faith, better define their Islamic roles so they can own their identity, live their absolute best life, and be a powerhouse in business. I wanted to come on to this week 9 of the podcast and just again say thank you for another amazing month of guests, another amazing month of content. And I am getting a great response, not only in the region here where I live, in Philadelphia, but also outside of Philadelphia, in New York, Delaware. We have listeners in Ireland. We have listeners in Nigeria, in Canada. We even have a new person from Finland and Spain and just all over the world. And what I'm excited about is I'm excited about the input and the questions and just the suggestions for the podcast that I'm receiving. And I'm grateful to be able to have this platform to talk about something that as women, we often feel like we have to diminish ourselves. We often feel like when we're in a room that we have to speak softly and not necessarily let our opinions be known. And I will tell you, this week was a testament to the fact that we as women, we often shrink ourselves. And I was in a room where I was the only Muslima in the room, and it was in a corporate space. And I was the only voice for the Muslima in that room. And we were talking about diversity and inclusion. And while there may be some bias on my part because I am a Muslima, at the same time, it's something that we need as a society, we need to be focused on, and we need to be focused on every single individual and their voice and their concerns. And we need to address them in a proactive way. I feel like it shouldn't be where we have to wait until something bad happens before we do something about it. So my goal, the rest of 2017 and 2018 with the podcast and just with everything that BU and HD is doing in general, is to change, of course, the narrative about religion, and religion not necessarily having a place in the workplace, to where it speaks to the individual. Religion speaks to the values and the morals and some of the thinking that a person has. So that person is bringing that with them when they come to the table, and it should have a voice in the arena. Am I saying, are we bringing out our books of choice and whipping them out at work? No. But what I am saying is that I want to be able to have a voice, and I want other Muslims that are like me that are in the corporate space to have a voice and to have their concerns addressed. So definitely look for more amazing content from the podcast. We will have networking events, and I will share them here on the podcast, workshops. We also have a blog that is going to accompany the podcast. And again, talking about diversity and inclusion in the corporate space and just in general, and touching on interfaith topics as well. And I'm going to do some amazing things in the latter part of the year. So in the fourth quarter, we'll have some amazing surprises that we'll have for the podcast. And of course, even more speakers, just as amazing as the speakers that we've already had. I do want to talk about the topics around travel. This is the time of year where a lot of people take vacations, etc. And just want to give you some tips on places to go, and then what you do to pay lower costs possibly for travel or get more out of your experience. And of course, we'll be talking about diversity and inclusion, and we'll be talking about volunteerism and our responsibility to our global community. And we also have a social responsibility. So for me, as my platform grows, I have a social responsibility to talk about the issues in my community or talk about the issues that are presented to me. I actually had someone who inboxed me and they were just talking about some of the issues that are going on in other countries, and that they would love for my podcast, for my blog, and just for my platform to address those things. So, of course, we will take those things under consideration, and we will put it out there and bring a voice to it. If it affects a woman of faith, we are going to talk about it on this podcast. And the premise of where I'm getting the topics and just the things that I'm talking about, it comes from an ayat in the Quran. And I've talked about this briefly in a previous podcast. And it is Surah 16, verses 90 through 91. And it says, "Surely Allah commands justice and the doing of good to others, and giving to the kindred, and He forbids indecency and evil and rebellion. He admonishes you that you may be mindful and fulfill the covenant of Allah when you have made a covenant, and break not your oaths after confirming them. And you have indeed made Allah your surety. Surely Allah knows what you do." So I call upon Him as Allah. However you call upon Him, in every single religion, we are called upon to impact the place where we live positively. So whether I live in the United States, whether I live in London, whether I live in Canada, I have a responsibility to not only reform myself, but also society. So if there are ills in the society, it is my job as a Muslim woman or a woman of faith, it's my job to help shed a light on them and then help improve them. So, I'm speaking for women of faith, not just Muslim women, but women of faith. And how do we positively impact the community through volunteerism and just speaking out against some of the ills in society, if you will. And these verses, when they speak to me in that they're telling us to have the best behavior and to formulate a society that is stronger as it relates to diversity, and is stronger as we become more inclusive of everyone that's in it. And I think this is extremely important, especially in the climate that we're in. And, it's extremely difficult to not talk about everything that's going on in society. And it's extremely difficult. But what I will say is that I'm going to let my feet do the talking. I'm going to let my actions do the talking, as opposed to necessarily, doing a march on Washington. For me, I'm going to work. Everything that I do every day is going to speak for me. So I believe that it's everyone's duty. Anyone who has a relationship with the deity, and even if you don't, it's everyone's duty, every human being's duty, to ensure that no person is oppressed, not any specific group, just no person is oppressed and no person loses their human rights. So I just want to let you guys know that BUNHD is about being your most authentic self and being yourself to the best of your ability. And the way that I'm doing that is every day, just the things that are on my heart to do, the things that I see around me that can be helped, to just act on them and not push down those desires because I feel like I'll be judged, or I feel like people will judge me for, well, what is she doing that for? And is she doing this for, X, Y, and Z? No, I'm doing it because I felt the need to speak about it. I felt the need to go over and help that person. I felt the need to bake someone, a pie and just deliver it to them without them even asking me. So, or giving someone a bottle of water because it looks like they're thirsty without them even asking me. Holding open a door for 10 people and letting them all walk through. No one said thank you, but so what? It lessened that person's burden of even having to open a door. And as people, if more people started doing small acts of kindness like that, I truly think that we would change we would change the world. And so in the latter part of 2017, I'm so excited for fourth quarter. Third quarter, we put our foot on the gas. We turned up the heat, and we looked to do more things and more things and more things. And now this portion here, we're looking for growth. We're looking for expansion. And we're looking to help more people. I set a lofty goal at the beginning of the year to help 1 million people over the next 365 days. And that's what I aim to do. You know, every single day that I wake up, the goal is 1 million. Every single day that I wake up, the goal is 1 million to positively impact 1 million people over the next 365 days. And I know that that's a big goal, but I also know what I'm capable of, and I know that I can do it. And one of the things today, I was at a woman's workshop today, and they gave out these slips of paper, and it had a saying or a line on it. And mine was, growing, loving, expanding, and evolving is your true nature. And that is so true. And this is a random piece of paper that was inside of a box folded up. It's not something that I picked. I saw it and I said, ooh, let me get that one and let me pick it. And BUNHD, I'm in that season. And right now, you know, I started off with Jenna's First Hijab just to empower hijabis, to encourage Muslim women that wear hijab, to encourage them to maintain hijab, to maintain their identity, to empower them to be their most authentic selves, not only just their hijab, but in the way that they speak, in the way that they act, in the way that they walk, in the way that they talk. And then to educate people outside of us and her friends and her girlfriends that, hey, this is the reason why she wears hijab. And so that was the goal of Jenna's First Hijab. And now I am on my second book, slated to be released November 24th of 2017. And the name of it is Not Without My Hijab, 11 Steps to Reclaiming Your Faith. And it further advances the message of BUNHD that women, it's okay for you to own your identity. It's okay for you to worship God. It's okay for you to be a mom. It's okay for you to be a wife. It's okay for you to be all of these things and still be that boss woman in business, still be this boss woman in the world. It doesn't diminish any of those roles, and it doesn't take away from your femininity either. You can be totally boss, and you can totally own a room when you walk into it and still retain your feminine power. So I'm just elated to be going into this fourth quarter. I'm excited for what's to come. And I want to remind you that this is not a monologue. This is a dialogue. I truly want you guys to have input into everything that BUNHD puts out. So please, when you listen to the podcast, please like it, share it, and totally comment and let me know what your thoughts are. When you see posts on Twitter or you see videos or even you see me out and about, I love when people stop me when I'm out and about and they say, hey, I love what you're doing. And what about this? What about this? What about this? I just put up a poll on Twitter just asking, what are more things that you would like to see from us? What are some of the things that are plaguing you? What are some of the concerns that you have? And so I would love your feedback. I would love your commentary. And I look forward to expanding into more countries. I look forward to, growing the number of listeners and having more people be able to listen to something and participate in a podcast that is all about them and that is all about advancing them and growing with them. So the cool thing is that we're all evolving, we're all changing, and I want to be able to grow with you. So I so appreciate you for listening this week. Again, this is a dialogue, not a monologue. So please, please, please comment below. Please, you can send me a video if that's what you choose to do. So I look forward to speaking with some of you in person and seeing you. If you haven't taken a look at Jenna's First Hijab or my new book, Not Without My Hijab. It is available for pre-order, and you can look them both up on my website at www.bunhd.com. And I look forward to next week, where I'll bring you another amazing guest. So this has been another spectacular episode of Maintain Your Islamic Identity and Still Be a Boss Muslimapreneur. It is our hope here at BUNHD that after each podcast, you will be empowered to have a deeper connection in your spirituality, personal, and business relationships. As women of faith, we have a responsibility to learn our religion, apply it to our daily lives, and to make a positive contribution in our local and global community. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you.